I apologize for spending so many episodes and so much time talking about how bad WWE has sucked over the past several months at least. And I don't find it any coincidence that it all started when they launched that failure of a network. And I re-stress it's going to go the way of XFL. Just watch. I will give it another year to be generous. But anyway, I should be turning more attention towards what's good in wrestling. And I'll save Lucha Underground for another episode because that is impressing the hell out of me right now. I want to turn my attention to TNA, and I know what all you haters are going to say. It's like, oh, they suck, they're terrible, they're going to go out of business. No, they're not going out of business. They have a new network deal lined up. They have it signed. It's ready. They're ready to announce. So, suck it. Anyway, there's a lot of good that's going on over there. And I'm going to start with the first 10 minutes of this past week's episode of Impact, where James Storm came out with Manic and Sonata. I refuse to call him the Great Sonata, at least not yet. Anyway, he comes out with those two, and he starts talking about his revolution and how he wants Davey Richards to give him an answer, which he demanded a week ago. He's like, you have a week to decide. So the Wolves come out with their belts, and Eddie Edwards attempts to speak for Davey. And we think that Davey Richards is going to, be swayed. It certainly looks like he's being swayed towards James Storm. But in the end, Richards takes the mic away from Edwards and says, I can speak for myself. And he addresses Storm. He says, hell no, he's not going to join. He's part of the tag team championship team. Why would he want to do something like that? So Storm and Sonata and Manic attack the Wolves. And there's a beatdown going on. They target I don't remember which one it was, but they target one of the guy's arms, I think, or legs. I really don't remember the specifics. I'm sorry. This is my bad. But they are taking to injure one of the Wolves while the other one is kind of laid out. And, eventually they get to the other guy, and it just becomes this brutal beatdown. And then we hear the music of Abyss come out. Now, the audience is kind of lukewarm to this. They're just kind of like, oh, it's Abyss. Oh, he's coming to save the day. As it turns out, Abyss jumps in and begins to attack one of the wolves. So this brings up the reaction of like, what's going on here? And then Storm makes the proclamation that Abyss is his newest pledge, which makes all the sense in the world if you take a minute to think about it. Abyss has been an underachiever. He hasn't been really going anywhere in recent months. He has been just kind of floundering around, and what better way for him to get a boost in his career than to join James Storm's revolution? He just seems to be the kind of guy who can be indoctrinated, who can be fed the Kool-Aid. So Abyss is now part of the revolution. Then we get the big turn, the big kind of swerve, if you want to call it that. James Storm produces a briefcase, which everyone had probably forgotten all about. That Feast or Fired tag team contract match. That the tag team championship match contract that was in his Feast or Fired briefcase. He brings it out, cashes it in, and they finish their beatdown on the Wolves, and we have new tag team champions in James Storm and Abyss, which makes more sense if you look a little bit beneath the surface than it does if you just take it at face value. It leaves Sonata open to try and get back the X Division title now that Joe has vacated it due to a real-time injury, and Manic is left to deal with Mahabali Shira. However, that's going to turn out. This does not look like a company that is going out of business or is going to end their televised career. No, they have a TV deal, and we may have to wait for an entire month for these things to resume, but I am looking at things to get better for those guys for that show anyway. And that's just one of the things that's good about TNA. That is just one of the storylines that is really, it's turning out to be one of the most excellent storylines that's going in wrestling anywhere today. We've also got this thing with let's see, I'm going down my notes here. One of the things that's being perceived as wrong about TNA is what they're, how they're handling Tyrus, aka Brodus Clay. Now, Tyrus has already lost 2 matches via pinfall because he's doing EC3's dirty work. That's what he's supposed to do. EC3's not trying to get his hands dirty with matches. He's giving them all to Tyrus. And I see this as Tyrus is going to eventually realize that EC3 is using him, and he's going to turn on him at some point, and it's not going to be EC3 versus Rhino all over again. This is going to be a different matter because Tyrus is going to want to break out. He's going to want to move up, and he's going to realize that EC3 is holding him back, and it's going to turn into a monster feud. What better monster face to have than Tyrus? And what better monster heel do we have than EC3? He is being really awesome in this role. He is taking this ball and running out of the stadium with it. Let's see. As far as this thing with the menagerie is going, yeah, they're being put into the spotlight recently, and Crazy Steve has won their matches for them. He practically won it single-handedly this past week, and the question is this making Crazy Steve viable? Is this putting him more in the spotlight? Is this going to mean something for him as an individual? And I'm siding on the view that maybe not. Maybe he's not going to be a main stage player. He's going to be an integral part of a team that is building itself up. And I hope that's the case because we need a more entertaining faction. I mean, James Storm's Revolution is on the more serious side, but the Menagerie, they're going to provide us with some entertainment. In the KO's picture and the knockouts, we need more knockouts. That's just the bottom line. We need at least 2 more women to make them look viable, to make them look to make them look good, because we have an extremely dominant champion in Havoc, and we need to bring somebody up from somewhere to seriously contend with her. But otherwise, Taryn Terrell and Madison Rayne turned in an excellent match this past week. Perhaps they needed time to work out their chemistry, but it worked. Whatever they did, it worked. We need more of that. We want more of this. Now, Bobby Roode versus Lashley, Part 3. This is going to be interesting. And the reason this is going to be interesting is because of what's going on with MVP and Lashley. MVP has taken to inserting himself into the title picture because Bobby Lashley, MVP has said that Bobby Lashley, the only reason he was champion is because MVP got hurt. And of course Lashley took exception to that. You could see it. Lashley was very expressive when these things were said. And this past week, the whole tension continued because of MVP's match. MVP was on the mat after Lashley took out Austin Aries with a spear. And after Aries won the match, MVP was down on the mat and he was looking for a help up from Lashley, who did not give it to him. Lashley just kind of said psych and walked off. This week it was teased that something is going down between those two, and MVP is the aggressor. He's the aggressor against someone because what we saw was Kenny King turning to MVP, like, what the hell did you do that for? And MVP said something about it's something that needed to be done for a long time. I can only guess that he did something to Lashley, and this is going to be interesting. It's going to lead to an MVP versus Lashley feud, which leads me to believe that Lashley is going to drop his next match to Rude. So, that picture is heating up. I want to see more interactions between EY and Spud. Bottom line, I mean, those two together, I mean, EY can make comic gold with anyone. He has Spud. He's about to spin platinum with this. I can't wait to see where this is going. As far as Samuel Shaw and Brittany, just ew, gross. There's just some things I don't want to see on my wrestling show, and they are doing all of them. Fine, he can be the aggressive, assertive guy. He can be the creepy dude who just does anything to protect his interest with Brittany, but let's keep it at that. Let's not go with, eating each other's face in the middle of the ring. I don't want to see that. I don't think anybody wants to see that. It's just icky. And this thing with Melendez versus Kenny King, King needs to get over on Melendez because he needs to make himself viable again. He needs to make himself relevant again. He is not doing any favors as MVP's lapdog or as his bag carrier or his water boy or whatever he is. They hyped him to the moon with this, King of the Night gimmick that they were trying to do last year about this time. He was riding in limos, wearing suits, and just being all, Mr. Smooth Operator and whatnot. Now he's just, we don't know where he is. So he needs to have this thing with Melendez to get him over as another heel. He needs that heat. He needs something to call more attention to himself. And I think this thing with Melendez and this not so much anti, but this thing that he's got against Melendez, and it's like, yeah, so what, you got your leg blown up, so what, you served in the military, so what, nobody cares, and all this stuff, just running him down for what he did in the military. And this is what King needs to bring himself back to prominence. Hopefully this means he will break away from MVP enough to possibly contend for the X Division title, and it would just make sense. We need more guys in the X Division. So right now, there's just a lot of good to talk about with TNA, especially where their storylines are going, especially with what they're building up. The wrestling matches themselves, I can't even tell you. You just have to watch. They have some excellent talent over there. They have excellent matches over there. You need to start watching Impact, people. If you're going to sit back and complain about how bad WWE has been, look for an alternative. Start with TNA Impact.